It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, October 22nd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's taking a look at how the Flyers veterans are starting off their seasons.
Good idea.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. You can win $300 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, the team did have a regular practice yesterday. They did some power play work. Love to see that. Even though it is improving, it can always get better. And when you have the practice time, you got to use it.
Oh, absolutely. And it hasn't improved to the point where we're not going to talk about it. So, yeah,
Sure.
It's good that they're working on it.
For sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do actually up against an Ottawa team. We'll get to that preview on tomorrow's
They've been a mess
show.
lately.
Of course. Yes. Just a hot mess up there. There is also a press conference announced for tomorrow that is arena related. So we'll report on that on the Friday show after
Mascots
that
will be in attendance.
place. Yeah, if Franklin's there, it's getting serious.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to look at how the veterans have started this season, especially after the game Monday night versus the Kraken, where some of those players were front and center in the scoring, and especially that top line with Sean Couturier and Owen Tippett and Travis Konecny. Obviously thrilled to see Travis Konecny get on the board and Owen Tippett continuing to have a bang up start to his season. And I think, when you're talking about who's a veteran here, I think it's like anybody but the rookies and Michkov, really. It's kind of like there's the mid-level guys, which is the Cates line, right?
Right.
And then I would still consider them somewhat veteran-y here. Trevor Zegras is kind of a mid-level guy here. Dvorak's a vet, but that top line is very clearly veterans at this point. Here, Garnet Hathaway is a veteran, for instance. So that's just kind of the context of this discussion about the forwards. We'll get to the defensemen in the next segment, but it is very clear that in the stats so far, the team leaders are generally Noah Cates and Owen Tippett, and the eye test bears that out.
Yeah, I don't know if we just started the season thinking that. I mean, Noah Cates we knew could do a little more point-wise. This could just be a really hot start. He might level in, and that's fine. I mean, again, he does so many other good things on the ice. It wouldn't worry me.
Right. So Noah Cates has the most scoring chances for thus far this season. And then the two of them kind of trade off in all these other numbers between being 1 and 2.
Oh, not assists.
Well, in goal related stats.
Right.
So in shooting and goal related stats, those are the two guys that are contributing the most right now. Owen Tippett has 34 shot attempts on the season. Noah Cates has 26. Tyson Foerster also has 26 in that stat. He's tied. Shooting percentage, Owen Tippett is at a whopping 26.32, which is the thing we were talking about summer long that we wanted to get from Owen Tippett.
But it's early. We'll see what it settles into.
Yeah, understanding we're 6 games into the season here, but I think Owen Tippett getting off to a good start was absolutely
he
critical.
Needed to. Yeah, he needed to. Based off of last year, he needed to do that to kind of get things going, and he has.
Right, and so Owen Tippett also has 11.51 shots per 60 right now. with Cates trailing at 8.29 shots per 60 here. Expected goals per 60. Cates is on top of that list, 1.94, with Tippett at 1.38. Goals per 60. Obviously, we know Tippett is in the top of the list there because he's only got goals in his stats right now with 5 goals in 6 games. But looking at the NHL Edge stats, also Owen Tippett has 6 of the 10 top skating speeds on the team thus far this season, which is to be
I mean,
expected.
that's to be
Right.
expected. The only thing, while this is all really good, Travis Konecny has to get into this list soon. He does.
He does, and I think that's why this Seattle game was so critical, right, in kickstarting that, because we know, based on past experience with Travis Konecny, that he's a streaky guy, but
Yeah.
when he gets going, he does have a really good period of scoring, and I think him getting involved in, some of the fighting and the energy in conjunction with that scoring is absolutely what fuels him.
It is. There's no question. When he gets fired up like that in game, he always produces. Like that's his thing. He needs to do that almost.
He does, and it is kind of fascinating how those two go hand in hand, but you absolutely do love to see it. I think when you kind of zoom out a little bit and look at more of the general stats here, you brought up assists. Well, Sean Couturier is actually the team leader in points here with 7, but he's got 2 goals and 5 assists. And I think, when I was looking preseason at who might jump out in terms of the scoring, I got to say, Sean Couturier was not on my bingo card to lead the team, right?
No, but we didn't know that he would get this inordinate amount of ice time, power play time. Like those things weren't really projectable, to be honest.
That is true. I mean, once we saw like where the power play was going, yeah, you're right. That ice time was going to go up. And he does have the highest average time on ice for the forwards here, just under 20 minutes or 90 minutes, 28 seconds.
Which is a
and
lot
that
more
checks
than
out.
last year. Yeah. So that makes me worried for him.
Yeah, I think that's something that is going to be key. And I think getting other guys up to speed so they can swap out with him on the power play a little bit more often will be huge. And I think getting Zegras up to speed so he can take over that first unit role here, I think will be key in managing his ice time, right?
Yeah, no question. And I think, I mean, again, Zegras is doing fine offensively. Defensively, he's not doing fine. And that's something where the coach is kind of giving him a pass on that now.
To some degree, I think they want to get him going offensively first and then kind of hunker down with the defensive side of
we
things.
Don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think that makes sense. And I think the fact that they're doing extra power play work with him as well, given the fact that he got demoted to the second unit, even though we know the second unit has been performing better. But,
it is better.
There is something to that for sure. But Zegras does have 5 assists on the season so far, which is good, but we do need to get him scoring, right?
Yeah, you need to get him scoring. You just need him to just play a more solid game. Like he hasn't been a big presence all the way through. The Seattle game was his best, but again, they had a lead in that game. We haven't seen him be able to really do things coming from behind or anything like that yet.
Coming from behind in the score or the net? Because
no,
we did see him
in the game.
from behind
in the game,
net.
like helping lead the team come back from like 2 goals down, that kind of stuff. He has to start kind of, pushing that, and if the Flyers never trail again the rest of the year, fine, and I won't talk about it.
That would be great, and I would not complain one single bit. But I think we did see a little bit of that from Zegras in the Seattle game. He was trying to make some of his moves there, carrying the puck, and I think that's going to be key to some of that confidence. Is that he's got to carry the puck well and then take the high danger shots, right?
Yes.
It's just a matter of getting that aspect of his game going. I think he is also the only quote unquote regular center on the team with below 50% on faceoffs, which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say in my life, right? With all the other guys above 50%.
That's true.
But I think that's an accomplishment that this core center group has been able to achieve. That's really, I think, an underrated aspect of this team so far.
It is. It is an underrated aspect. I think honestly what they need to do is he's had a couple of good shots on the power play, but not enough, Zegras, and I think they need to feed him more for that on the power play. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's why I want to see him kind of elevated in the power play structure, but also 5-on-5. I mean, there's
Right.
no law against him shooting more
No.
5-on-5 here. I think the only I think true large area of improvement has been the fourth line for the Flyers. And that's
Yeah.
partially due to swapping out the personnel every game. And there isn't really a regular fourth line as of yet. And so I'm going to give them a little bit more time on that
That's
to
fine.
see where it settles. But I will say that Garnet Hathaway, as a veteran, has not been as good as he has been in the past in terms of at least getting a chance or two a game.
He's heading into Delorier area, I think. And, you know, this is what happens sometimes when you play heavy minutes a lot of your career, you know, you get into fights and things like that. So, and again, I mean, they won without Obels, but I think they're better with him. And
They're
I think,
much better with him.
and I think that for whatever reason, I don't know why it's taking so long to figure that one out. But maybe, again, maybe this is just a game with Luchenko, and at some point they will just do it, but they're hesitant to do it because they don't know when they're sending him back. That could be it.
Yeah, and I think, the only aspect of Garnet Hathaway's game that I think could be affected by all this is maybe he just needs consistent line mates and things will improve with him. But I'm not sold on that entirely. I'd have to see it to believe it. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too. I mean, look, Luchenko and Grebenkin, when they play with him, you know, are fast guys that can move the puck. It's not like you're playing with guys that can't get you the puck. They've gotten him the puck, and he just hasn't really been able to do much. In my mind, I can only remember a couple of good shots on net from him. In that last game, he had one.
Yeah. But overall, a pretty solid start from the forward veteran core for the Flyers. We're going to turn our attention to the blue line coming up next. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that is why there is Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Monarch helps you notice inefficient investment allocations. You can discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. It'll help you save even more money, which you can then turn around and reinvest. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougier comes in. Rougier.com offers fast, exciting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougier makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit Rougier.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougier.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rougier, stop making excuses and start making moves.
On tomorrow's show, we will, of course, preview the matchup against the Ottawa Senators, who we mentioned are struggling quite a bit. And we will get to your mailbag questions a little bit later in the episode. Looking at the Flyers blue line here, obviously this is very veteran heavy on this blue line here. the only kind of quote unquote younger player here right now is Zamula, I would say, with
Yeah.
sort of Drysdale, but not really.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is in terms of where it should be, or where it is versus where it should be, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's putting a ton of pressure on Travis Sanheim. And so the question is, how is he shouldering that thus far?
I mean, so far, fine. I mean, this is kind of like what his job is at this point. Should it get easier? It should. But he just seems to be that guy that just fills all the gaps. And if they're missing some offense, he'll try and step up and make it happen. If they're not playing good enough defense, he'll try and do that. If they're not being physical enough, he'll try and do that. Like, he's just trying to, do a lot.
He is, and he's all over the ice. And I
Yeah.
think he thrives when he is all over the ice. I think
Mhm.
we saw when he was sort of in the Torts system last year, you could tell he felt hemmed in,
Oh, yeah.
right? And when Torts was gone, you saw him skating deep into the offensive zone a lot more, taking more shots, all of that. And I think that's continued into this season quite a bit
Yeah, I
thus
mean, when he
far.
was drafted, he was described as a rangy defenseman, and he wasn't allowed to be that guy a lot under the Torch system.
Right. And I think especially even before that, in his early days, I think his adjustment to the NHL was a little bumpy, as
It
we
was.
recall.
Oh, yeah.
And, there was a whole question of, is this guy for real or isn't he? We don't know. And then like eventually we got there with Travis Sanheim that we now know and love, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that we're in some ways, benefiting from being in the apex of his career right now. I think
Yeah.
the fact that he got that Team Canada experience last year has only enhanced his game and enhanced his drive to do better and to utilize the best aspects of his game. And I think we're seeing that so far. He's got a goal and 3 assists, a 14.3% shooting percentage. He's taking 3.67 shot attempts per game thus far, which is pretty solid for your number one defenseman who isn't really a number one defenseman, right?
Yeah, he's the most indispensable player on the team. May not be the best,
Oh, for sure.
but he's the most indispensable.
Although maybe except for Dan Vladar right now, but
Yeah, you could argue that.
You could, but I do think that we're only going to see him start to take more shots as the season progresses, and
Yeah.
especially so if he's on the power play. And I think that's where some of the other guys come in, your Jamie Drysdale and Cam York specifically. Now we know obviously Cam York missed the first couple of games,
He did.
and so you can't really look at the cumulative stats for him thus
No.
far with any sort of judgment, but 3 assists in that game against Seattle is nothing to sneeze at.
No, I mean, look, we knew Seattle was going to have problems. We didn't know Brandon Montour was just all of a sudden going to have a leave of absence. So that
Right.
definitely made them a little more susceptible than usual. And it was good for York's confidence. He definitely was able to get some things through on the power play. And so, yeah, we'll see if he builds on that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important as these next few games progress. And I think, his partnership with Travis Sanheim is a really good one. And I think could help propel this team in a lot of ways. I think that really what we're looking at is the need for the Flyers blue line overall to get more involved offensively. Because, as you go further down in the pairings, you look at Sealer and Drysdale, we know Drysdale should be getting those chances, but really isn't at this point.
Right. I think he had the early track on that. He didn't pass on, he didn't pass muster. So now that York came back, he got that spot. Now Jamie's got to concentrate on other parts of his game. Like, basically his zone entries, he's really got to be smooth on this. Like they're iffy, they're glitchy, they're not complete. Like there are times when the Flyers are needing like 3 guys to get the puck up the ice. That should never happen, really.
Right. And I think that is going to be kind of the next order of business for the blue line, because I think,
Yes.
for the most part, they've worked things out in terms of the pairings and how they want to get the matchups.
We know that Noah Juleson will never be taken out of the lineup. Like we just know that. So
at least for the time being,
I've thrown up the white flag. Like I'm not going to talk about him much because there's no point.
Right. Well, hopefully
I'm just saying
things
that's
change
my
on that front, but I
yeah.
think I do think you're right, at least for the time being. And
Yes.
I think, Zamula obviously needs to continue what he did in
Yeah, he had
the
a really good
Seattle
game. That was
game.
his first really good game.
Yeah, and build on that. And that way we have a third pairing that has
Yes.
some stability to it, which is the most important aspect of the third pairing there. I do think they need it to adjust the power play system a little bit to get more shots from the point. I think they're working to get shots from down low a
Oh,
little too often here. And I've noticed that in their setup, more often than not, the defenseman is directly in the center of the ice at the top of the point. And they need to make some adjustments to be a little
yeah,
bit to
a little
either
bit
side on
off.
the blue line to get the angles. So and we're not necessarily expecting the defenseman to score from the point, but to get more rebound opportunities, I think, to
No, but
mix
I
up
mean,
the chances, right?
you make a good point because on the broadcast, and I forget who said it, they said, "Well, he's a left shot defenseman, and he can't really shoot it from there." Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's true. So
Yeah.
adjust. Like that's that's the next step in that.
Right, and I can understand them wanting to work on other things about getting the puck down low and the
Hmm.
rotation and cycling and all of that in the offensive zone. But now I think there's a little bit of stability there where they can start tweaking the
Yeah, I
formation a
think
little
so.
bit to get more angles. So that's something I'll be looking for from the blue line. But I think, overall, and Nick Sealer's just doing his thing,
Yeah,
and
Nick Sealer's Nick Sealer. Like, you're not going to scream about him that he's bad. You're not going to like be like, "Oh my God, Nick
yep.
Sealer," because his offensive is great. He's just solid.
Yeah, absolutely. But lots to look forward to. And we will, of course, be checking in on all these guys as the season progresses and match it up against where we started out. In the meantime, we do have a bunch of your mailbag questions to answer on Matvei Michkov, Jamie Drysdale, on Porter Martone. We're going to get to all of that coming up next.
The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes their game day experience so much better. I still like Justin Herbert for MVP. You can get some good odds on him. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
All right. Our first question comes from Jeff via email about Jamie Drysdale. And we know that the Flyers have made adjustments here. And Jeff is wondering that it seems that Drysdale just doesn't have that quarterback feel from the point that makes a power play run efficiently. The decision making needs to improve. Where is the one timer? How about just hitting the net? And has an idea that maybe Rasmus Ristolainen could be the solution when he returns.
I mean, he could be. I don't think he is, though. We've seen him run the power play, and I think there's more of a chance with York. If he's going to hit the net, that's better. Drysdale did hit the net last game. I did see that, but I get what you're saying. And honestly, when Risto comes back, if Jamie's playing this way, he could be in trouble.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth a shot. Jeff mentioned in the email about, Risto did play on the power
He
play a
did.
little bit in Buffalo. So, it is an option. And I think that is going to throw a wrench
It
into
would
the
definitely
blue
throw a
line.
wrench no matter what.
So I think, obviously we don't know when that could be, but
We saw it. We saw a picture of him, and he does exist, and that's it.
yeah. We had a couple of emails come in about Matvei Michkov and about his scoring and the context around that. So Mark emailed us saying, I've enjoyed and appreciated the effort on the ice and feel like they're pulling it together. That being said, my question is, where is the magic from Matvei Michkov? And then Mike emailed us saying, on Michkov's play, I know he was an elite scorer in Russia, but did the teams he played with have winning or losing seasons? Tocchet seems to have the team playing better than most thought. So if the Flyers were losing more, then Tocchet wouldn't be so short on pulling the leash on Michkov. So
I'm
what
not
do you
sure
think about
about
all
that.
that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that would change the leash. I think no matter what, he would still be trying to instill his system early. Sochi was okay. They weren't, a great team. They weren't a horrible team. I don't remember
They were
what
in the
they were.
bottom half, I
Yeah,
would
I don't
say,
remember
but not the
exactly what the
worst of the
record.
worst, but
No.
in the bottom half.
Yeah, I think it's again, when you are creating a lot and you have this quote unquote magic, when you're being asked to do it a certain way, a young player is going to take a while to kind of like get it going under those new rules. He got a little more going against Seattle. He got an assist. He had at least one good shot on net. What I'm not seeing is any trickiness on the side of the net or behind the net at all. And I really need to see that, because that's an area where you kind of have to lure the defense to come to you, and then other things can happen when you do that. But I don't think he has the confidence for that right now, because I think the coach has asked a lot of him, and I think that has changed the way he's playing.
Yeah, it is interesting because getting loaned to Sochi, right, sheltered him a little bit because it wasn't as good a team and the spotlight wasn't as big. And in some ways, that gives you a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in Philly, there is some of the aspect of that with the Flyers not having been as successful a team
Mm-hmm.
over the last several years. But at the same time, when you're the guy that's expected to carry the franchise a little bit further down the path toward being a contender, there is some pressure with that as
Yeah.
well. And I think that all of that in combination with what you're talking about with the changing systems between coaches and having to play a certain way, I think you're right. I think the adjustment period is just going to take a little bit longer than maybe you'd hope
Yeah,
for.
that's what I think.
Yeah, but I'm with you there. Joe DeAngelis commented about our comments about Porter Martone and the BU
Mm-hmm.
versus Michigan State game, that he had gone to the game. He says, I was excited about seeing all the Flyers prospects playing in the game, and especially Porter Martone. By the end of the game, I was super excited about Shane Van Sagi. He was noticeable every time he was on the ice. That's true.
Yep.
But I also walked away very concerned about Porter Martone's skating. It looked extremely slow out there. Could the Flyers believe Porter can play in the NHL right now?
I mean, I don't think they think he can, and I think that's why he's going there. Michigan State is a really good skating team. And yeah, he's probably not, in the upper echelon of skaters on that team, but he's also a bigger guy, and with more moving parts, it takes a little while. He is able to get to the net, and that's a big key thing. He is not a big, like, open ice kind of scorer. So
No.
I think his skating will be fine. I think as he gets stronger, that will help correct some of that. And so, yeah, what you are noticing is true, but I don't think it's an area of great concern. However, if it doesn't pick up a lot, if he goes back for a second year, that's fine with me too, because that's a lot of those things will get focused on over the summer, and you have to see what he looks like. But if he's kind of in between, you think he's going to get a little bit stronger during the season. You can't do that in an NHL season, but you can do it in a college hockey season.
Right. And that's what I'm looking to see, if there's improvement over the course of this
Yeah.
season. And then next summer, he's going to get a skating coach, like a top level skating
Oh, yeah.
coach. There's no question about that. And so we'll see what he looks like, again, toward the end of the season at the
Yes.
college level and coming into camp next summer. That's kind of the benchmark for whether or not he needs to stay in college another year, I think.
I agree.
Joe commented, if Vladar continues his good play and gets more starts than we all thought he would, I think we will see the Sam Urson we saw when he played behind Hart without the pressure of being a number one. I thought that was an interesting comment.
I mean, you
What do
might.
think?
I mean, because ultimately that may have been his best role. And he tried to step up and hasn't been able to do it. So that's entirely possible. But again, we don't know if Dan Vladar is going to play like Carter Hart did either. He's just off to a good start. So all these things are still kind of unknown.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting
But it
thought,
is.
though, that some guys are built to be backup
Yes.
goaltenders, right?
Yes.
And I think Sam Ersson wants to be a starting goaltender, but he has to earn that,
He
and
does.
he hasn't as of yet.
No.
Dan Vladar has so far, but again, like you
Yep.
said, Russ, it's early going, so we
Yeah.
can't say for sure. But I do like the thought
No, it's
behind
a
the
good
question.
thought.
Our last question is something related to what I said on the show yesterday about fighting. And David commented, hockey is so rich in history, tradition, while being so unique and multifaceted. Why take away the way the players police and control the game? Do you really trust the refs to police the game alone? And don't you find it even a little short sighted to take something away from hockey that is part of the game? And I need to respond to that because
Mhm.
I do firmly believe that the skill and speed of hockey has outgrown the need for fighting. And while I don't think the refs are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think it's necessary to have an enjoyable product out there. That being said, I would never tell anybody that their liking of the fighting is wrong. I think both opinions are valid here. I just don't prefer it, but it's okay if you do. And clearly, the game has decided it's still something that they want to include in the game. And, I'm not mad about it. I just would personally prefer it with less fighting or no fighting, but I don't think anybody's wrong for liking it, if that makes
No, I
sense.
mean, look, they'll never take it out. It's never going to be
Yeah,
completely out. They could penalize it a little more in the future, make it a little less desirable, but it won't be out. But again, players always do talk about policing the game. Uh, that's always going to happen, and most of it's positive. But then you get the other stuff, like the Tom Wilson stuff, the hit the other day, that's quote unquote legal, and then you say, "Who policed that?" And the
right.
answer is nobody.
Exactly.
So that's where
Exactly.
there's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, you can police the game through solid checks that
Mhm.
aren't damaging,
Right.
right? I think you can absolutely do it that way.
Yeah.
And I would never take that out of the game. I would
No.
never take unless I mean, I don't want center ice open hits that are going to cause brain damage either, but
Yeah, I
like
mean,
what
when the
Tom
puck's
Wilson does,
gone for,
but
like, 2.5 seconds, nobody should be getting
nobody.
hammered. I don't care if it's in the chest or not.
Right, but I think that but hard checking is something that I
Yeah,
enjoy
it's
in the
fine.
game.
That's
It's a lot
yeah,
of fun. I love when guys throw hits. I just don't think they need to do it with their fists to
right.
make a point.
No, that's fair.
But if you do, that's cool. I'm not mad about it either. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back tomorrow to talk Ottawa Senators and so much more. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you have questions you want us to answer on the show, you can do so via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night. It's on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.